introduce ourselves for her, or we're probably good, right?
We're good.
So we need to start off by briefly summarizing the case. Is there anyone that wants to do that?
This is the case of just so I make sure I have the right case. This is of the little boy who got, and the family that they're living within like a war zone.
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay, yeah.
So,
What's
yeah.
I gotta pull it up just 'cause I can't remember their names, so I'll just sound like I.
The last name's
They're all hard names.
Qurtom. Qurtom is the last name.
Cortum?
Yeah.
Well, the Cortum family. So his little boy was playing outside and came back, and he had, because of like a rocket that happened, he had some shrapnel that had hit him and had like punctured his lung and stuff like that. But that wasn't just the first case. Like since living there, the older brother of the oh goodness, I really got to get their names because I feel like I'm like a boy one, boy two, had passed away from a similar thing. Like a rocket had gone off and he'd been killed as he was playing in the doorway of their family home. Yeah, hold up, sorry, that just came. Okay, yeah, that's smart. And so the whole case was like the effects on families when living in like trauma areas, so like either like war zones or things like that happening, and the effects on this, I guess, this specific family.
Good. Anybody have anything else to add to that?
Yeah, I read it a while ago, so like I can't really remember it as well as I thought I would.
I think I would just add the part where the father isn't able to work because he has health problems, and so he's getting help from his brother, and it said international sources. And then they mentioned that the father also has a daughter who needed psychiatric help too.
Oh,
Because of that, yeah, yep.
And daughter, okay. And the psychiatric help was because of all the stresses, right?
Yeah,
And the
like
death of the brother.
having angry outbursts, I think is what it said.
Good addition.
I guess, is there anything anyone else wants to add, or should we go ahead and move on? Okay.
We're good.
We'll just move on. Okay, so list any principles or concepts from the course that can be applied in offering help or direction for this family.
You know what? I have some things written down, but it was really hard to really relate to this. Like,
Yeah.
I'm sure we all have stresses, but I don't live in a war zone. That was, and for me to say, like for example, I said they could try some mindfulness techniques. Well, that works for my stress, but if I had rockets blaring overhead, I don't know. It's a little perplexing.
Yeah. I actually thought the same thing, is that I was thinking, because with the other cases you can kind of, even I know people that have gone through similar situations, so I can kind of relate that way. But with this, yeah, I don't even have any family members that are living in like war zone areas where they're worried for their lives because they're going to be, bombed or anything like that. So yeah, I agree. It was hard to kind of think of ways to help when it was so like something that I have never experienced.
I'll actually start the answer that way, that it's hard to relate to this family because our stresses are so different than theirs. But still, I guess we need some suggestions. Hard.
Something that I wrote down was like how they perceive the situation. Like they can either look at it like, yes, it's a really awful situation, but what can we learn from this? How can we grow from this together as a family? While also recognizing that it's a really scary and insecure situation, but what can they benefit from it? Versus looking at it as, this is awful, why are they doing this to us? This is the most horrible thing. Nothing ever goes right. Like if they look at it as something to be learned, then I think they would have a better go at it.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think changing your perspective, like regardless of the situation, is going to help. Even though we can't really understand how difficult this must be, any way of changing the perspective and looking at it in more of a positive way is going to be beneficial, I think.
Mhm. I think kind of going along with that, I thought that maybe one of the things that they could do was mood logging, because I feel like with constant stress, I think kind of along with the mindfulness too, you have to be able to, I don't know, kind of, I can't think of the word, but distinguish between what's your fault and what you can't control, and really just working through the process, because I feel like I think the father could, really easily feel like he just isn't able to provide stability and safety for his family, and may have to work through that. And so maybe just going through a mood log would help them to be able to distinguish between their emotions and feelings and why things are happening, and that it's not their fault.
Yeah.
Anytime we can talk about things, it's always so helpful. Even obviously extreme things like this. Just be able to communicate.
I have something real quick. I think going along with that, I would just add that I think for any family, no matter what stress they're going through, family councils can help. Briefly in the article, it just barely mentioned some of the stressors that the other siblings were going through, and I didn't really pick up on them until after I went back through and tried to jot down the names that they mentioned and what they were struggling with. It talked about how one of the older brothers had nightmares, and that after one of his nightmares he wanted to buy some guns so that he could seek revenge on his younger brother's death. And that's a really big deal, but it didn't on his struggles. I think each member of the family probably is perceiving this crisis in a little bit different way. So I think it's good to talk openly about it and come up with a plan for helping everybody.
Excellent.
Really quick, I was just thinking that last week when we talked about the different typologies and the different types of families, I feel like going over that might be helpful, because it has the 4 different things in each one of those, the typologies, that kind of help you to see what would make a more resilient family. And so I feel like maybe something like that, showing them those things, might even help them to think of what things they could do in the situation, like still having family rituals and just being open in communication, and just those different type of things maybe would be helpful in helping them deal with stuff.
Yeah, I like that. Trying to keep some form of consistency or
Normalcy.
and normality. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, normalcy. Okay, I think I got it all.
Okay, I'm sure you got more than 100 words there, so that's good.
Is that what the limit is? Oh, you're right. I'll adjust.
Yeah, I think it's funny that we have to have so many words, because some of these are
Under
just
200. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, between what does it say, 100 and 200 words?
Yeah. Thanks for pointing that out. I'll make sure and figure it out.
I think she also mentioned that it wasn't as big of a deal, the quality of the writing, so much as what we discussed. I think I saw something along those lines, but yeah. Okay, well, I guess we'll move on to the next point. So it says list relevant risk, dangers, the family, and so list relevant risks or dangers the family and its members face.
I think we mentioned a few of them with the kids, the different kids that we were, or the other siblings, and some of the effects that they were experiencing. I just think that one of the risks could be if they're if those things aren't addressed later on, that could cause a lot of problems within the family and individually.
Okay.
I would worry too. This will come up later when they talk about like specific relationships and things like that. But I'd be worried about the new baby, and kind of always living in the shadow of the son that passed away. I don't know if that would happen or not.
Especially with the same name as the brother that died. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that might be a risk.
Yeah, and I also, and specifically with that, it's, I mean, even the dad said, no one will replace our first son.
Especially in a male-dominant society like they live in.
I
Mm-hmm.
think there's already like a comparing of like, because he said like we could have like 100.
I'm having a hard time hearing.
Like we are replacing him, but we're not. Like I think that could cause a lot of problems later on. But yeah, that might be more for the, what is it, the next one? Oh yeah, important relationship considerations. That's like this. We can mention.
Well, that's certainly a problem. Like even though that's the next thing to discuss, that is definitely a problem for the family. A danger in any of the relationships, the husband and wife, the parent. How it's easy to shut down when there's high stress.
Yeah.
Are the parents shutting down and not nurturing the kids? It's so really complicated.
I think we could mention the physical danger too of having rockets going everywhere. And we kind of mentioned this a little bit, but I think just there's a danger in being scared of living after this experience and going out in public, constantly being afraid that there's going to be bombs or something. I think there's a huge risk of PTSD symptoms with all of the kids because they learn to expect that kind of danger.
Yeah.
I think another thing, they kind of mentioned this, that with the father's health, that then it played into his being able to work. So I think that that's kind of a risk or factor, is being able to provide for their family or have work, and the father's health being good enough to even work.
As well as other health problems for the family. Mental health, we already looked at the psychiatric care of the daughter, but just a general feeling of depression and maybe not being as optimistic as they can, which plays into your health, your overall physical well-being.
Yeah. Does anyone else have any risks they thought of?
I even think the relationship with, like you all, I think all the factors that we said, like the always in physical danger or the threat, a physical threat being there, I just think it puts a toll on the marriage of the family. Like even that, I think a lot of needs aren't being met between like the husband and wife, or even the husband or the parents and the child, just because all these other things are taking more, like president worried for our lives. That's going to take precedence, maybe.
Stephanie, I think your mic glitched out just a little bit. Or at
I
least.
think I got the bulk of it, though.
Okay, yeah. I was like, as long as you got what I was saying, you can kind of fill in.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I especially appreciate the end part you said. The safety, your physical safety takes precedence over everything. I'm sure in that situation.
Okay. Well, Lynn, are you good to move on?
Yeah.
Okay. I guess. Go to the next one. So, list relevant opportunities presented to this family as a result of the crisis. This one, I seriously just felt like, what were the opportunities?
You know, the first thing I noticed was the extended family. You know, it was the father of the family, his brother was helping them financially and obviously very concerned for them. So there's this opportunity for the strengthening of the extended family in addition to the immediate family.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking the same things too, where the rest of their lives, especially like their physical setting, is so uncertain and they don't really know what's going to happen next or what or who's going to be there. If they draw closer to their family, extended and immediate family, that they know that they're going to be there, you know, they're at least there in the present time and they can stick with them while everything else is chaotic, that they can bond with their immediate family too.
I think it was my other class. I don't think it was this one, but we learned about how difficulties like this can make the family stronger and more resilient. So I think that would definitely, it kind of goes along with what everybody's saying, that they would be able to rely on each other more and just become stronger as a family unit. But I think as individuals, they're also going to be more resilient and more prepared for really anything later on in life.
And see how in our own lives how one challenge seems to prepare you for another challenge, and you do get stronger along the way. So let me finish this thought though. Difficulties can make families stronger as unit and individuals. And what was the rest that you said? That was really good. Thank you. Oh my gosh, thank you.
Just what did I say?
That was good.
They just become more resilient and more
Okay, there
prepared
you go.
for anything in life.
I think it also gives them a chance to turn and rely on their religion as well. I don't know what it is that they believe in, but in an atmosphere of so much change and disarray and danger, there's very few things that they can rely on each day. And I just know, I'm sure it's the same for all of you guys in my life. It's nice to have something that is unchangeable besides family. You know, it's nice to be able to turn to the gospel.
Yeah, I didn't know about that. I really like that.
So something so stable as their faith and their higher power or whatever, or in our case, our religion. Depend on. Okay.
All right. Well, I think that's a good place to move on. Okay, so no important relationship considerations.
Yeah, I know we're talking about the family, but oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say just what we were talking about before with the new son and how it's possible that the family will idolize him or put him kind of, not like a scapegoat, but like in place of their other son and not value him as who he is, but as they expected their first son to be. And I think that, especially with him and his father, but him and the rest of his family too.
I think not only like the parent-child relationship, I think kind of going off of what you said, just not idolizing the child, because I feel like as the father said he didn't want to replace him, but I think they named their son after him because they kind of want to remember him, and so I feel like that maybe could cause problems. But I think another relationship is maybe just like the brother relationship, both with the son who's injured and then his younger brother, but then also the father and his brothers, because they kind of talk about those relationships too.
Very good.
Really quick, do you guys keep on hearing that like little
bell or beep?
I'm really curious what that is. I can't figure it out. I keep on looking if maybe like someone's, video is playing back, but I didn't think it was mine. So.
I don't know. I hear it too.
Oh well.
You know, in this discussion about relationships, I was thinking a lot about their community, just their community as a whole.
Yeah.
Well, like we've already talked about with the family, there's such an opportunity to become divided and less trusting, or to become so much more dependent on each other and so much closer than a lot of communities are nowadays.
Just to bring up a more specific relationship, I don't know if this is what would happen, but when I was talking about the older brother who had nightmares and he voiced his desire to obtain guns to seek revenge on his brother's death. In my mind, I'm just thinking he is one of the older siblings, and so it would be easy for his younger sibling or adopt the same mentality and kind of turn towards anger and wanting revenge, and I think that's something important to consider. I just know that in my own family we kind of all gravitate, we all look up to our older siblings regardless of whether their choices are good or bad. So I think that's another one to look at.
Yeah, I totally agree with that.
Very good. Okay.
So, sorry, I didn't mean to keep going on it, but I just had a question, and I may have missed it, but did it talk about the wife very much?
I don't think I mentioned anything about
Or
her.
at all?
Right when I was talking about when I was like, it'll put a strain on their marriage, and then in my mind I was thinking, I don't even think they mentioned
Yeah.
the mom at all. So maybe I don't know, maybe that's an issue there.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't know if that meant there wasn't. I'm assuming they just had a baby, so there's got to be a wife. But
I wonder if
part of the culture too.
yeah, someone else was saying culture too. I think the culture plays a lot into that, I would have to guess.
okay.
Wasn't it they said something about, I can't think of it, like the Arabs and their son relationship or something like that. I wonder if the women are just kind of the child bearers and they don't do much else.
Or it might even, or maybe like it's just a respect thing, where they don't like broadcast everything about the women. I don't know. I have no idea, but okay, I was just curious. Anybody else touched on that?
I don't think anything is mentioned. Okay. Well, okay, so the next thing, it says recommend coping strategies.
Dealing with the grief. They lost a son, and you can grieve for someone's life, but in addition, you can also grieve for your safety, that you no longer have that security. So there's a lot of, I'm sure, grieving going on, and it really has to be addressed. You can get stuck in grieving stages if you don't acknowledge how everyone's feeling. We've already talked about communication. That would be a huge reason to communicate.
And what did you guys think about the picture on the wall? Did you think that was like a good thing, or that would make
I
it?
thought it was very interesting.
Wait, I didn't notice. What picture?
Oh, so the picture was they had the young boy, the son that had died, and they had a picture of him on the wall, but it had been changed, like they'd had it like Photoshop done.
Oh, okay, they talked about that, right?
And in a graduation cap.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I thought you saw one in the picture, and I was like, I didn't see one.
No. Yeah, sorry. I just read it, so.
That gave me a little bit of a funny feeling. I don't know.
Yeah,
I think it must make it harder, in a way, to think about what he didn't get to experience or what he didn't have or everything that was missed, as opposed to celebrating the life that he did have as a child. So maybe that would be a better strategy to focus on his childhood and the life he did live for coping.
Yeah, it reminds me of that. I can't remember his name. Zach, the one with cancer. That video that we had to watch.
Zach.
And it reminded me, yeah, Zach. So it reminded me of his family where they focused on what he can do and what we're doing now to really celebrate him and their family. And I think, I don't know, I thought the picture was kind of the opposite of that. Like you were saying, like it celebrates things that he never got to do. And I don't know, maybe it works for them. Maybe that helped them move on. But I know for me, it wouldn't really be very helpful.
I agree.
It would be interesting to know like what they think of the afterlife. If maybe they feel like he really will get to go to school, and so that's why they put him in like the graduation robe. I don't know. It is kind of an interesting concept that they would celebrate something that he didn't get to do rather than who he was at the time.
I didn't think about that. Really good point.
And I think it might also place kind of an undue pressure on the other siblings. I don't know what their economic situation is, or if it's normal for them to go to college or not, but
Yeah.
they might feel pressure to live up to that. I don't know what they would be feeling looking at that picture, but I imagine they would probably feel either pressure about it or like they shouldn't go to college because that was something that he would have done. I don't know. I feel like there's definitely some inner conflict there.
Mm-hmm.
Again,
in regards to coping strategies, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to bring it back to the coping strategies, but you sound like you were going to go on that, so go ahead.
I was just going to bring back up the mindfulness because that's actually what I wrote mostly about was doing mindfulness because like everything, like the threat of security especially is so high that if they really like live in the moment and really enjoy actually being there with the people that they have when they have it and enjoying the good times, then that can be something that they draw back on when times are harder or they don't have those resources anymore.
Okay, good. So let me just make sure, so you're discussing the mindfulness, how on the threat of the security, if they learn to live in the moments that are at least peaceful and good, then that can help them when there's going through experiences that are harder. Is that what you meant by that?
Yeah, because
Really
we
good.
experience good more moments more fully so that we can better grasp on those.
Excellent. Okay.
Did anyone else have any ideas for coping strategies?
You know, I just wrote stress cycle to learn to understand what their individual or their collective stress cycles are would really be helpful. Then they can start seeing what are obviously rockets are a trigger, but there's probably other triggers also. Loud noises or anything that there might be things that they can modify to help minimize stress when there's not the stresses they can't control.
Yeah.
Maybe if there's counselors in the area, I don't know if that's like a thing where they generally have family counseling or individual counseling, but maybe they would be a little bit more practiced in dealing with this kind of stress in the family.
Really good point. I wonder with their culture if it's okay to ask for help. I don't know the culture very well, but
Yeah, that would be.
we need to be okay to ask for help sometimes.
Yeah. it is just really hard with not knowing their culture, really, and not having been in this situation. I think that coping strategies, I don't know, it's just kind of hard to think about what would you suggest for this family.
Yeah.
Maybe we could just suggest things that are inside their control. So, like, they can't, you know, fight off rockets or stop invasions or whatever, but they can focus on, you know, making their home a safe place, or focus on, you know, I don't know if they, like, grow their own food, but, you know, like, focus on things that they can control. And so, kind of like a distraction, but also, you know, because when you accomplish something, you feel good about yourself. And so that might be helpful.
Yeah. And I think just, especially in times of, like like you were saying, like they can't control the rockets and things like that, where you feel like you have no control whatsoever, I think having control on just these little things help bring stability into, like, the family, into, like, the individual lives. If you feel like you have at least some control of your surroundings and what's going on.
Good points. So kind of to gain as much control and stability as they possibly can. There's that beep again. Did you hear it?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, so we'll go to the second to last thing. It says recommendation to support / involved parties. So
Counseling's been mentioned.
Touch in community.
Counseling would be great for individuals, families, and their collective community. Just
Or is that kind of,
what was that?
sorry, I was like waiting for you to finish, but I wasn't sure. A little bit. But like we mentioned before, is that we have, like, in this situation, the extended family really is helping out with the family, that when he's not working and things, his brother's helping him out, which I think is very, I don't know, I think that's really good, and I think that can bring a family closer together. But especially, I think having them being involved with the community, that are all feeling the same way, are all going through the same thing, they're all living in a war zone, can be very, I don't know, helpful in coping.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead, Carolyn.
Sorry, it's the delay is hard to have a fluid conversation. You know, this sounds so silly, but I wrote down even developing like a guard system. You know, that you talked about the community where they feel so vulnerable. Well, what about if they rotated at least people watching for when the rockets start going, or I don't know. Again, anything that they can do to help control their circumstance would benefit them.
That's a really good idea. Because I think that's the hard thing. Well, and with the first son, I feel like he was just out playing, and that's what happened with the second son, too. So I feel like, especially with children, maybe they just aren't as aware of it, or aren't as quick to pick up on the fact that a rocket's coming. I mean, I don't know. I guess I've never had a rocket just fall down on my city, so I don't know what it's like, or if it's obvious, but there has to be a way of figuring out or sensing that one's coming, so I think that could be a good way of maybe helping avoid future problems.
Did anybody wonder too, and maybe they can't afford it at all, or maybe it's just not at all in their mindset, but is there any way they can move? Because this area that they live in is perpetual danger.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, they might just literally not have the means or the mental wherewith to do that.
Yeah. Or even like what's in a bunker or something, because it said that they sleep on the, like, is it on the
Stairwell? It's like a stairwell, right?
Yeah, you would just think that they would, try and have some place that was more stable for that, but I don't know.
In the article, it said, not in the case study article, but one of the readings, it was talking about how some families don't really see it as having an impact on their family. Like, that's just the way it is. In the case study, like the father said, this is normal in Gaza. And so if they see it as normal, then maybe they don't think that they can change it, which is really
Right.
sad. But, if you broaden that out to other crises where they see it as normal, then what can I do about it, kind of a thing.
Or even
That could
like
be part of
yelling
it.
at families. Hmm.
Yeah.
Good point.
Maybe it's even a blessing that they see it as normal. Maybe that those hard things that they experience aren't as big of a deal in their minds. I mean, obviously it's really sad that they're not, seeking change if they can, but if they really can't change their situation, maybe it's better that they view it as normal. One other thing that I picked up on was the little boy, the 7-year-old that they started the story off. It talked about how he was really happy when a neighbor dropped chocolate off at his door and that school was going to be reopened. And so to me, that's just saying, how much joy the kids are even receiving from little things, like having the neighbors look out for each other by way of chocolate. Or it made me also think of the influence that the teacher of those kids can have in their life, and what good they can do there, because the teacher understands the crisis that those kids are in every day.
Great points. Kids are just naturally more resilient as well, aren't they?
Yeah.
Move on a little better than us adults sometimes.
I guess, is there anything else in that one? I feel like that one kind of overlaps with the last concept too. It says additional resources you may provide or suggest. Do like we kind of overlap with that, but I feel like we were kind of talking about it a little bit with just like the community. One thing I was thinking is I feel like everyone in the community, because they are impacted by it, I would wonder if there would be a way that they could maybe do a community like coping group where they, all the families who have been every once in a while and just, talk about things or maybe even help people, with resources of, I don't know, I guess I feel like it just affects you so much, and so maybe just figuring out how to cope and maybe even if they need jobs or just helping them in the right direction. I don't know.
Staying busy and productive is beneficial to anyone going through a lot of stress and challenge.
Yeah.
I was thinking of that too, because it says that the dad isn't even working right now, that he was staying at home because of health conditions. He had 2 kidney operations or something. So maybe that's another thing we could bring up, is just worthwhile things that the dad could be doing besides thinking about his son that passed away from the rockets and creating computerized pictures to hang on the walls.
Yeah.
And things to help make his life more meaningful. Helping and serving other people. You talked about the community support and the community effort that would benefit the families. And just the idea of getting out of our own woe, our own challenges, and thinking about other people and their challenges is a healing process and a strengthening process.
Yeah, just keeping them busy, like what everybody's been saying pretty much, but keeping them not necessarily distracted, because you still have to cope with what's happened, but more so like just involved in other things, like what everybody's been saying, and just pulled into more like of a service mindset and building the relationships that they have within their family and extended family members and neighbors, and just taking care of other things as opposed to always dwelling on the loss.
Excellent. I have a really sweet friend. She's passed away, but she had a happy book. And she had so many challenges in life. But she never went to sleep until she wrote some things, whatever was happy that day in her book. And she said what it caused her to be able to do was not ignore her challenges, because you have to address them, you have to deal with them, you have to cope through them. But her last thoughts every night were positive, and so she would wake up and look, optimistically at the day, even if there was challenges ahead. But she lived that too. You could really see how that habit affected her mindset and affected how she treated other people and how she looked at life even with its difficulties.
That's a really neat idea.
Yeah. I missed one point that I wanted to make sure and get. So develop into a service mindset instead of, what was the rest of that thought?
Who?
Forget. I always forget. I'm sorry. I don't know.
It was so good.
Service and I think I just talked about like building the relationships that they already have. So like focusing on those family relationships and friendships that they have.
Yeah.
Okay. Just as you finish that thought and thinking of that happy book, it makes me kind of just almost like a conclusion to keep focusing on what they do have and what not what they don't have.
Yeah.
Well, I guess as soon as you're done with that, Carolyn, if anyone else has something to add, that's great. Otherwise, I think that's pretty much it.
Now, do you then turn in the video, and then I turn in the paper, or do you want me to send you the paper and you turn them in together? What do you think would be best?
Doesn't matter. I can send you the link and you can include it in the paper, or if you'd like to send me the paper, I'm happy to put it in. It doesn't matter. Whatever is easier.
Since I'm already typing this up, why don't you just send me the link then? You can email it or send it on that discussion page we had for this case study.
I can do
And
that.
I'll include it on there.
I guess, does anyone feel the need to see the document before it's submitted, or do we want to just turn it in?
I'm okay.
Like I trust you, Carolyn. I'm sure it'll work.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, if anyone does, just holler and I'll send you a copy before I send it in. But otherwise, I'll just get her done and turn it in tonight.
Awesome. Sounds good.
Sounds good. All right. Well, I guess we'll just go ahead and stop the broadcast and call it good.
Thank you.
I just had a
Great
question real quick. Carolyn, when I came in, you were asking names, but I don't know if you got mine. Did you get my name?
I've got Stephanie Wynn. Stephanie, how do you say it? S-O-G-L-A? Sogla?
Yep, Sogla.
Okay. Kylie Anderson, Kristen Helbush, and Carolyn Herr, Maddie King.
Perfect.
Perfect. Thank you.
Everybody. Okay. Thanks for making sure.
Yeah.
Bye.
Well, thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.